Hi Cliff fans, and welcome to another one of my 5 minute Cliff album reviews. And today I'm going to review Cliff's 2013 album, The Fabulous Rock and Roll Songbook. And this album reached number 7 in the British album charts back in 2013. And I absolutely love this album again. It's all rock and roll greats, sung by Cliff. So I'll go through some of the songs now. Opens with Rip It Up, which was released as a single, download single, so it didn't do well. As Cliff's downloads don't really do that well. Cliff fans don't generally download. So it didn't make the chart, the singles chart, unfortunately. But it's just a great opener to the album. Cliff went around performing this one live a lot back in 2013, promoting this album, and it was a highlight of the concerts as well around that time. The second song is Wake Up Little Susie, which I couldn't wait to hear. Cliff actually sings this. I think he's singing with Vince Gill, the American country and western singer, Vince Gill, who's a fabulous songwriter, and he's an amazing guitarist. I'm not sure whether he plays guitar on this, but he does harmony vocals with Cliff on Wake Up Little Susie, followed by one of my favourites at the time when this album came out. I absolutely love this version, Poetry in Motion, which I think I like it because it's so different to the original. Followed by probably the one that remains, I think, my favourite song on the album, Sealed with a Kiss. Absolutely beautiful song. I've always loved this song. Originally recorded by Brian Hyland. My childhood, it was big number one back in 1988, I think, or 89 for Jason Donovan. I remember he had a big number one with it. So it's a song that's been with me for a long time, and I absolutely love it. And I'm just so glad that Cliff finally recorded it. And actually, Hank Marvin actually recorded an instrumental, beautiful version of it as well on his album around this time as well. Followed by Stood Up, which I had a bootleg version of Cliff singing this in 1980. I have on a CD, a bootleg version, but this one is this is much better. This is a cleaned up version, and Cliff actually sounds so fantastic on this album. I have to say, the band on this album are absolutely fantastic. I wish this band would just record with Cliff and go on tour with Cliff all the time, because I don't think he sounded any better than with this band. Absolutely fantastic, the band on this album. Followed by Such a Night, which I remember Cliff saying on some of the interviews he did for this album that it wasn't the Elvis version that inspired him. It was the Johnny Ray version that he remembers, and he was saying that he was going to perform this live in concert, but for some reason, maybe during rehearsals, he decided to drop it. But he never sang it live, unfortunately, but it's just a great version of Such a Night. Followed by Chuck Berry classic School Days, which was a nice surprise. I was like, of all the Chuck Berry songs, I don't think I would imagine Cliff singing that one, but probably had to sing it because of the big anthem at the end, Hail Hail Rock and Roll. Followed by two Elvis. There's no way Cliff was going to make a rock and roll album and not feature a couple of Elvis songs, and he stuck two together here, Teddy Bear and Too Much. Absolutely brilliant. Cliff had already sang Too Much. Too Much he actually sang on his first ever album. And this was, the time that this came out, they said is 100 album. Now I've added them up. I done a load of calculations back then. I couldn't get to 100 no matter what. Like they were saying, there's like compilations and live albums and movie soundtracks and everything. Even if you add them up, I still don't think it adds up to 100. But anyway, this was promoted to be his 100th album. So yeah, it's his 100th album. So it's good to hear Too Much on his first album and his 100th album. Followed by a big highlight of this album. I'd never heard this song. Well, I did hear this song before, Don't Let Go. I heard it on a Jerry Lee Lewis album that my dad had. It was from the early 80s, or no, the late 70s maybe. It was a Jerry Lee Lewis album, and he's singing Don't Let Go, and I always loved Jerry Lee Lewis singing it. Then, when this album came out, we have YouTube and all now, so I was able to check out who originally sang it. And there's a guy called Roy Hamilton originally had the original single back in the 50s, so well before Jerry Lee Lewis got his hands on it. But Cliff's version just absolutely fantastic on this. Followed by Dream Lover, which was that released as a single? I'm not sure, but Cliff was certainly using that one as well when he was going around promoting this album. He'd either sing Rip It Up or Dream Lover or both. So I'm not sure whether that one was released as a single, but if it did, it didn't make the chart again. Followed by Stuck on You, which is one of my favourites on this album again. It's another Elvis track, which I was surprised because this is an Elvis track from 1960. And as I said with Just Fabulous Rock and Roll, you expect Cliff, if he was going to do any Elvis tracks, to be from the 50s, because Elvis was rock and roll in the 50s and has countless rock and roll songs he could have done from the 60s. But Cliff choose this one from 1960, Stuck on You. And in a few interviews with Cliff, when he's talking about Elvis, he goes back to seeing Elvis performing with Frank Sinatra, and he says that you can't take your eyes off. You forget about Frank Sinatra, you can't take your eyes off Elvis. And looking at that clip now of Elvis with Frank Sinatra, now this is where Elvis actually performed this song as well, Stuck on You, for the first time after coming out of the army. So maybe that was embedded in Cliff's head at some stage, but it's just an absolute fantastic track. Cliff does it totally different to Elvis, and it's just brilliant. I absolutely love it. Then Fabulous, which as the title suggests, just a fabulous tune, originally by Charlie Gracie, followed by Rave On, which Cliff did actually perform. I think he did perform it in some of the shows. I remember seeing him singing it live. I think I have video footage somewhere of him singing Rave On, and Johnny Be Good likewise, and I think there is footage of him on some European programs singing Johnny Be Good. There's great live performances on YouTube as well of him singing Johnny Be Good. Absolutely brilliant version. And the album closes with a new track, the only new track on the album, One More Sunny Day, which was a highlight for I think a lot of Cliff fans at the time. Just a beautiful song. I think it was written by Steve Mandel, the guy who produced the album for Cliff. He actually went on the next album he wrote, It's Better to Dream. So One More Sunny Day, just a beautiful song. So this album, definitely a 10 out of 10. It was an absolute dream come true for Cliff to finally do another rock and roll album. I wasn't expecting him ever to do another rock and roll album, but he finally gave us this, and I absolutely love it. I absolutely love the two albums, the Fabulous Rock and Roll Songbook and Just Fabulous Rock and Roll. Absolutely two crackers of an album, and I still play them to death now. So this one is a 10 out of 10, obviously. So I'd love to hear in the section below, your thoughts on Just Fabulous Rock and Roll.